appearance here at DragonCon, so I'm glad you made it into the room. Without any further ado, the king of cameos, the father of our imagination, a global treasure, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jack Lieber!
Save me a place next year. Okay, now that we've done that, it was great seeing you.
How you doing, Dad?
Okay.
Yeah, good to see you. You look incredible.
Good to be seen. Well, I happen to be incredible looking.
I'm already brown, just so you know. Okay, anyway. All right, where are our question locations? Because we have lights in our eyes. So, okay, there's one guy. If you guys have any questions for Mr. Lee, you're going to line up in that direction. Do we have anyone on the other side? There we go. Down the aisle and on that side. If you guys have questions, this is going to be a very quick panel, so we're going to try and get through everything imaginable. Sir, thank you so much for bringing everything to us in fandom. If it wasn't for comic books, if it didn't start out with Thor or Iron Man or Captain America, a lot of us would not be here today. It's all because of you. We really, really love you for that.
And well, you should. I don't understand why a guy like me even has to pay taxes.
You're right, you're a national treasure, and I'm sure they're working on that. So you can put in a good word for me, because I hate paying taxes as well. Alrighty, let's go ahead and open this up with some questions, and we'll keep on talking along the way. We're going to start.
I knew it would get tough questions now. Just when I was having fun. All right, here we go.
Alrighty, we're going to start with this side of the room here. We can't see you because of the lights in our eyes, but we can hear you. Go for it.
Yes, hello, sir. I want to thank you for my childhood, first of all. You made me the geek I am today.
Well, that's very nice. Send me money.
Okay. I did. Most of my allowance throughout my entire childhood.
Okay, I owe you.
I know your creations are like your children, but I have to ask, do you have a favorite child?
Spider-Man! See, I get that question often, so now I've got the answer ready.
All right, thank you. Let's go over to the other side of the room here. Where are you? Go for it.
Sir, once again, just like that dude, thank you very much for all that you've given us. My question to you is, we know Spider-Man's your favorite. Who do you like the least?
Who do you like the least? Spider-Man's your favorite. Who do you like the least?
Superman. Although, that isn't really true. Superman was the first and started all of these. And I think that those two guys deserve a lot of credit for having created them.
Absolutely. Mutual respect. I like that. That's fantastic. Don't believe you, but yeah. How you doing?
So I just want to say that speaking of Superman, I want to ask, what was it like if you ever met the person who created DC's comics? Did you have like any banter between each other, like who you think would win in a fight, or like what was it like when you first met the person who made DC comics, you know, compared to you who made Marvel?
Could you summarize that?
No, I can't. I couldn't make it out either. Where'd he go, sir? What was it like to meet the creators of DC characters? Is that basically
the person who created DC Comics? I was asking, what was it like for you to meet them, Stanley?
What was it like to meet
Or him, Stanley?
I met them years later. In fact, Jerry Siegel, who wrote the Superman, I hired him to work for us for a while because the company for whom he had created Superman had let him go, believe it or not. So we hired him and he worked in our office for a while. This is when I was in New York. But then he had to move out to the coast because I think his wife had some sort of illness and needed the air on the coast. So I lost him then. He was a nice guy, and I just think that he should have been more rewarded for having come up with Superman, but hey, that's the breaks.
Hey Stan, getting into people you have hired in the past, Jack Kirby just celebrated his 100th birthday last Monday. And I'm sure he was an employer or employee of yours as well. What do you know more about Jack?
Jack Kirby was simply the greatest. I gave him the nickname Jack King Kirby, but it should have been his name. He could take any story and make it look exciting, intelligent, and you wanted to read every panel and turn to the next page. Jack Kirby was really, in comics, he was the equivalent of the best film director you could ever find. There are a lot of people in the business who draw well. Jack not only drew magnificently, but he positioned his characters perfectly in every panel, just the way a movie director positions his actors for every scene. Jack was so good. I used to watch him draw. He drew as though he was tracing a drawing that already was there. I mean, he'd put the lines in, and then go to the next one and the next one. Now, the average artist draws something and then maybe changes it a little or moves it along. Not Jack. He drew a line, that was it. It was perfect. He knew it was perfect, and he went on to the next line. I loved watching him work, and he was also a terrific guy. That was Jack Kirby.
That's the man. Hi, on this side of the room.
Hi. Out of all of the characters you've created, which best represents you?
What represents me?
What character best represents you?
Hugh Hefner.
Tony Stark.
Yeah.
He's handsome, he's intelligent. I know, they all represent me, damn it, I made them up.
Tony Stark.
The Hulk especially. You should see when I really flex up.
He said I can see when he really flexes up. Okay. This side.
Hey Stan, I know you're a very creative guy, and I was wondering what kind of stories you like to tell.
Good stories. I don't care what kind it is. As long as it's well written, exciting, and I want to turn the page, and as long as I can believe in the characters. For example, one of my favorites when I was young was Sherlock Holmes. Now, he wasn't a superhero the way we have superheroes, but he knew someone who was so smart, smarter than anyone else. He could look at you and tell where you'd been and what you'd been doing with little clues. And I love that. I love a character that's different and better than most of the other characters. So whether it's a detective story or a superhero story or a humor story or a romance, I don't care. But I want the characters to be as interesting as hell.
And you did that. You started that with Spider-Man. You basically changed the industry. It was no longer like, here I am to save the day kind of stuff. It was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life today? And this guy was a superhero.
He knows Spider-Man better than I do.
He could have been black.
He probably will be before you know it. With making every other change.
Moving on. Okay.
Hey, where do you see the Black Panther?
I saw the Black Panther.
The movie.
Oh, the movie. Okay, yeah. I just knew he was black. I didn't know he was the movie. Okay. And speaking of course, you're the king of cameos, as I had mentioned before, and you haven't stopped being in every Marvel movie imaginable. Can you tell us a little bit of your role in Black Panther? I have money.
In Black Panther, I play a very serious guy. I'm standing at a bar, and the black. No, you know something I'm not supposed to. Sorry. I can't tell you. You gotta see the movie. No, you tricked me. I'm not allowed to tell. What? No, I'm not allowed to tell.
We have to take a collection within the room in order to get that kind of information out. All right, but we're really looking forward to that. Where's our next question? I think we're on this side, right? Hi.
Hey, I was just wondering, well, I'm asking you. What before Spider-Man, who was the very first concept you came up with in the Marvel Universe?
Believe it or not, I don't remember. Oh, wait a minute. No, I do remember. The Fantastic Four. They were the first. I modeled the thing after me.
Here we go. Okay, all righty. Fantastic Four. Yes, hi.
This is actually more of a request than a question. If you look around DragonCon, you will notice that there are a lot of us who are 2X, 3X, 4X, and larger. And there seems to be a deficiency of superheroes that would allow us to cosplay.
Not enough people.
Would you be willing to use some influence to correct this superhero oversight?
I'm assuming that's you, right?
I'm one of us. We are many, and we're large.
Kevin Smith, the director and writer of Clerks years ago, which was my first big starring role. He used to be very overweight, and I remember once they wanted him to pay for 2 tickets on an airplane when he got on for a seat. He lost some weight, now he can get on a plane and sit in one seat, so he's all right. I don't know how to answer your question because I think we could have some overweight characters as interesting incidental characters in the story, but I don't know that we want to encourage kids to eat a lot so that they become overweight, because I don't think that would be doing a good thing for most of the kids. So there should be, comics like Wall Story should represent all types of people. And of course, there should be overweight characters. Should be skinny characters like me. There should be short, tall, bald-headed, everything. And if we have been derelict in having overweight characters, I apologize. And we will try to add more to the series.
So the Hulk, kind of helped me try to control myself. And Spider-Man, because he was always an outcast, that kind of helped me deal with that. Plus, Aunt May kind of reminded me of my grandma, so a lot of times, sometimes I would just take some tips from Peter Parker and do certain things, and I'd always get my grandma to smile. So just thank you for those characters. They really helped me out.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And the question that I have is, okay, about a decade and a half, 2 decades ago, you got to reimagine the DC characters of Superman, Batman, Justice League, Wonder Woman, all those people. And I just wanted to ask you, what were some of the thought process you went through, since they were definitely so different from the originals?
You mean the series that I did for DC? What if Stan Lee had created the characters? The thought process I went through was I was sorry I had taken the assignment. No, because those characters were really perfect the way they were. And it's very hard to think of a way to improve something. I mean, I don't think Superman could have been any more perfect than he was. If you're creating a super character and there's never been any, and you decide to let him come from another planet, and he lands here, and because the gravity is different there, here it's easier for him to jump. And oh, by the way, you know, originally Superman could jump over a high building. I would like to know how he gained the power to fly. I never understood it. Hold this for a moment.
All he did was go like this, and he's flying.
So I have a bone to pick with them about that. But it was tough to really improve on them. The only one I think I made much better than the original was, what's the name of the one who runs fast? The Flash. The Flash. I think I did a better Flash, and I don't remember what I did, but I remember thinking it was better.
Yes, they were. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
It could have been Quicksilver. I don't know. He was an Avenger. Quicksilver,
Yeah.
remember?
That's right. What about him?
Nothing.
He's looking for a fight.
Where are we, on this side? Hello!
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you, like everyone else. Spider-Man was like a huge influence in my life. Me and my grandfather would actually watch the old cartoon together, and my mom cried with tears when she found out Miles Morales was like Hispanic and black, because there was like no Hispanic people for her to look up to.
Hold it a minute, because there was a what? What did you say? There was a what for people to look up? Okay, go ahead. I wanted to be sure I heard you.
Anyways, I'm a huge fan of American comics and Japanese comics as well. And in 2014, there was like an Avengers crossover with a Japanese comic. Do you think that there's any possibility for Marvel to do more of those in the future?
There's always that possibility, but they keep so busy with their own characters now. I don't know how they get around to it. I did a manga, what did I do? Hero Man or something like that. It's something, it's still being sold, I think. Very good, I couldn't understand. I wrote it, and I couldn't understand it. But I like Japanese comics. They have their own style. They are so different from American ones. And I like anything that has its own particular identity. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you did. Thank you. All right, let's go over this side. Let's make sure we get straight to the question, okay? We got a lot of people in line.
It's been really cool watching the Marvel Universe wash over the earth yet again with the new movie series coming, all movies coming out. The cameos that you've done, what would you say is your favorite cameo? And if you have a story around that or a favorite set story, that'd be awesome.
My favorite cameo, all right. I'm going to confess. I did a cameo in Thor, where I'm standing at a bar, I think, next to Thor, and he's drinking an Asgardian drink.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, hey, give me a sip. He said, you can't drink this, it's too strong. Well, you may not have thought of it, so I'm going to tell you something you never thought of. It's my favorite cameo because it's the first cameo that has 2 scenes. So I'm hoping at the next few cameos, some director will remember that one and say, I can do better than that, I'll give him 3 scenes. Who knows, they may end up with the whole movie coming around going on.
That would be great, the Stan Lee movie. The Stan Lee, the movie. That would be...
I like that too.
You like that? All right. Royalties. Yeah, I think we're on that side. Hi.
Hi. So, I might be the only one that remembers this, but years ago you did a reality TV show called Who Wants to Be a Superhero?
Right.
What I want to know is how that got started, like whose idea that show was, and if you had any favorite moments from filming a reality show like that.
Well, I'm going to disappoint you. And I hate disappointing the true believer. I do not remember how we started it. I got the idea from somewhere, I guess. Maybe somebody suggested it to me, I just don't remember. And what was the second part of the question?
Sir, can you repeat that one?
If you had any favorite moments while filming that show or anything that
That's another problem. I don't remember. It was so long ago. There was a woman in it who played Fat Mama or something like that, who was a superheroine too. And I think my favorite moment was trying to make the audience believe that she was a superheroine. And she was a very nice lady, and we had a lot of fun with these things, but I can't, it was so, I have no memory, I gotta tell you. You know the reason, oh, I'm gonna prove to you what a bad memory I have. You may wonder why most of the characters I created had the first initial of their first name and their last name, like Peter Parker, and so many others. And the reason is, if I could remember one name, I knew the other name began with the same letter, and it helped me to remember. For a writer, I really have the worst memory in the world. And I think we got off the question.
No, you
I got out of it somehow,
no,
safely.
You answered. That's brilliant, though. I didn't think of that myself. J. Jonah Jameson.
That's right. My great triumph, J. Jonah Jameson.
There were some great actors that actually portrayed J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man, so congratulations on that one. Okay, we're going good, guys. Hi, we're on this side of the room.
Hey, Stan. You created everything I love. Thank you. But anyway, so you mentioned having multiple scenes. I've got a question. Are you the Watcher in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Because there was the scene at the end of Guardians with you sitting next to all the Watchers. Are you a Watcher?
I don't like an ordinary civilian to probe a question of such magnitude. I am not permitted to give you a definite answer, but let me say, in some strange way, you're on the right track.
That is, in fact, the closest answer we got out of him on any spoilers. So that was pretty good. Okay. Hi. On this side.
Hey, Celia, it's Spider-Man. Just wondering when I'm going to join the Avengers.
Spider-Man will the Avengers?
No, but seriously, Mr. Stanley, you created all the characters that I loved as a kid and still love today. And as a writer myself, I do want to ask, when you're going through your storylines or your characters and you're trying to make a new story, what goes through your head? How do you come out with the story that you will make?
Yeah, I wish I could think of an answer to that. The same way you do, or the same way anyone else does. You sit down and you say, I've got to write a story. So the first thing you think of is, who is the story about? Let's say it's going to be about Daredevil. So, okay, Daredevil is blind. So I got to think of a story that involves his blindness and where in some way he can use it to help him catch the bad guy, or in some way it causes him to be in trouble and he's got to find a way to save himself. And you just start thinking of all the things that might happen, and you pick the one that interests you the most, and you start writing it, and I don't know what else to tell you. One thing I will tell you, a lot of writers say they write stories for people from 25 to 35. Or they write stories for people from 18 to 22, or whatever it is. I have never thought I write stories for any special group of people. I like to feel I'm writing stories for me. And if I enjoy the story that I'm writing, there must be millions of people with the same taste that I have. So, it's easier to please yourself and put down something that you say, wow, this is great. I didn't know I could write so good. Look how exciting this is. Oh boy, I can't wait till I see the end. If you can get that excited about what you're writing, the chances are the readers might feel the same way, because we're all pretty similar. You talk about similarity. All of you here seem to love the Marvel characters. So you're all similar in that sense. Some of you are older, some of you are younger, some of you are black, white, yellow, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So I think I got off the subject. What I was trying to say is, when you write, please yourself. Write something that you think is great, and the chances are you're not that unique. I'm not that unique. There must be a lot of people like me, and they'll like the story too. End of lecture.
Wow! Those were some very, very wise words.
Naturally.
I think where are we? On this side, I think? Or the other side? There you go, we're on this side. Hello.
Hi, Mr. Lee. I'd like to thank you first for all of your contributions to fiction, and I was wondering, what changes do you like that the films have made, and what changes do you dislike?
So what changes did I make? Would I make to any films? Oh, I wouldn't change any films. Any film that's out there, any story that's out there is the product of somebody's imagination and somebody's work. That's the way he wanted it or they wanted it. I wouldn't change it. If I had to write something like it, I would write something completely different using those characters. I would never try to change what another writer writes. I would just maybe try to write something totally different about the characters, which is probably a very unsatisfying answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the gentleman that just asked that question is, with the motion pictures, of course, that is in the hands of totally different writers. Stan basically served as executive producers on all of the Marvel films, so I'm sure his input was there, but like he had just described, you know, he's got a little bit of, respect for the writers and what they put down on paper.
I have to also confess why it's a little difficult for us sometimes. I can hear perfectly. Every one of you that talks, I hear you, but I have a very strange affliction. Even though I can hear, somehow or other the words don't come in clearly to me. So you may say, Stan, what's your favorite character? And I'll hear, Stan, what's your favorite character? And I turn to you, what did he say? And that's why I do that. It's not that I'm not listening or paying attention, but I've got this stupid hearing thing. It's the clarity that I don't have. I have the sound, but it's hard for me to tell what the words are. So thank you for helping. Thank you for being patient.
Awesome, okay, next question.
Two things. One, I missed the key word. Captain America is what now? He's hijacked? Oh, he went over to Hydra? Captain America went to Hydra! Are you kidding? Oh my God! I don't read the books anymore either, because my eyesight isn't that good. I can't read them. Well, why did he go to Hydra, if I may ask?
That's what everyone wants to know.
So I take it you disapprove then.
If Captain America had gone over to Hydra, would you disapprove?
Yes! No, there's gotta be a reason. We'll find out later that he did it for a good reason. Or else I'm through. Captain America.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is official. Stan Lee is pissed off.
There's gotta be a reason. We'll find out later, I'm sure. But when I'm out of here, I'm going to make some phone calls. And Dr. Doom became the leader of the Fantastic Four. Well, let me tell you about Dr. Doom. He's not that bad. The reason is, all the man wants to do is rule the earth. Now, you could go up to a policeman on the corner right now, and you could say, "Officer, I want to rule the earth." He can't arrest you. That's not a crime. Anybody could want to rule the earth. So the man is not a criminal. Why do they make such a big fuss about it? Leave Dr. Doom alone. Got that off my chest. I have something else to get off my chest. You're always asking questions. I'll ask you a question. If you were writing the word comic book, how would you write it? How would you spell it?
2 words. D-O-M-I-C. 2 words.
Get a few answers.
Anybody different than the typical spelling? Anybody? What about C-O-M-I-X maybe?
All right, well, here's what I'm leading up to. A lot of people write C-O-M-I-C space B-O-O-K. They make it 2 words. That is so wrong! The reason being, comic book means a funny book, like science fiction book. Comic books are not funny books. They're a certain type of book. They're a comic book. C-O-M-I-C-B-O-O-K must always be one word, because it refers to a book that is printed on that kind of paper with a soft cover with drawings and words, and that's a comic book. And if you write comic space book, you're just referring to a funny book. And Batman is not funny. So I want you all to be on a crusade. Anytime you see anybody writing comic book as 2 words, I authorize you to make a citizen's arrest. It's a big thing with me, it's very important.
On behalf of DragonCon, Stan Lee's opinions are strictly his, and we'd like to apologize to every teacher out there who now have to put up with their students in writing comic books as 1 word. Thank you, sir. All right, where are we? What side of the room? Here you go. Hey.
Mr. Stan Lee, sir, thank you very much for everything. I grew up in Jersey, so my moral compass needed a lot of help. So your comic books helped tremendously, thank you. What do you feel is the best message to tell the kids of today that you told us all so many years ago that have carried us so far?
The best method, what? I can't make the best message. The best message I would like to give to kids today? Yes. Read Marvel. What are you referring to in particular? What type of message?
You know, like great power comes great responsibility. What would you like to tell the kids of today? Aside from put down your cell phone.
Oh. Well, I actually have a cause that I'm espousing right now. I've started something called respect, and it's symbolized by a black hand shaking a white hand in an expression of solidarity. We've been promoting that. I've been promoting that in a lot of other areas. You'll probably start seeing it in the internet and so forth. That's one thing. The other thing, the only thing I would suggest, whatever religion you belong to or don't belong to, I think the most important thing, and here I get serious now, the most important thing that human beings could do is live up to one adage, which is one sentence, only 10 words. And if everybody practiced living according to these 10 words, life on earth would be paradise. And the 10 words are, and you've all heard them, do unto others as you have others do unto you. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. You'd never lie, you'd never hurt anybody, you'd never injure people, you'd help people. Just treat other people as you'd have others do unto you, and it would be a wonderful world. So that's my little word for today.
Our subject of what you just mentioned. I'd like to read something to you guys that Stan wrote. 1968, 1969 when he wrote this? I'm not sure. Stan wrote, let's lay it right on the line. Reverend Martin Luther King and Senator Robert F. Kennedy were assassinated. Racism and bigotry are among the deadliest social ills plaguing the world today. But unlike a team of costumed supervillains, they can't be halted with a punch in the snoot or a zap from a ray gun. The only way to destroy them is to expose them, to reveal from the insidious evil they really are. That's just part of it, and that came from his words.
And you kept that?
That's it. Absolutely. Absolutely. It means so much to me. And I'm very proud. That's you. Back in the day when we had more strife back then, Stan came up with these words, and that's why he worshipped them. Okay, we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Let's go to another side. Where are you? What side are we on now? Just stand up. Oh, hello. Oh, it's a little one. She is standing. Okay. Hi, how old are you?
9.
Hi, 9. You have a question for Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
What was the learning experience when you started drawing?
Wow. What was the learning experience when you started?
When I started learning.
When you started drawing. Learning experience.
When I started writing.
Drawing, yeah.
Well, I drew when I was very young. I wasn't as good as the artist today, but when I was 8, 9 years old, up till the time I was about 13, 14, 15, I would have fun. I would draw a horizontal line on a piece of paper, and that was the ground. Then I would draw little figures on that line. That was my characters. And I'd have them running and jumping and talking, and I'd make up little stories with these little characters that I drew, which were not very well drawn, but I knew what they were. And I guess those were my first comic strips. So that by the time I ended up working in comics, I was a little bit familiar with telling stories through pictures. I don't know, did I answer? I don't remember what the question was.
Your learning experience through that, which you actually did explain.
Oh, that I explained it. Okay, that was it.
Thank you. All right, what do we got over here on this side?
Hi. So I don't know if you've been to the movies lately, but a lot of the movies, since you're in them, but a lot of the movies these days don't have a lot of original content. They don't have a lot of creative, brand new ideas that haven't been out before. So I have a little daughter, and as far as I know, one day she might want to be a writer for a movie or something like that. So I was wondering if you had any suggestions for future generations of what we need to do, or any words of encouragement for creativity and new original creative ideas.
Suggestions for creative. That's about the hardest question to answer, because some of them work in their backyard and they make their own little movies with their own little camera, and they turn out to be geniuses. What they do is great and they get a job. Others spend years going to film school, and then they learn what they've learned and they try to get a job that way. Everybody does it his or her own way. And I don't think there are no secrets to, I don't know what kind of advice to give somebody, except if you want to be in the movie business, to make movies, the first thing you gotta do, of course, is go to a lot of movies, see a lot of movies, see them at home on your computer, whatever. And then try to figure out yourself why the movies that are very successful, that people get good write-ups about, why are they so much better than the movies that don't get good ratings? And reach the point where you become a good judge yourself. You could say, that movie will do well because of the characterization and the suspense. That movie won't do well because the characters aren't realistic enough. If you reach the point where you can become a good critic of what other people do, then when you start doing it, you'll probably be able to do it a little better yourself, because you know what to look for and what to avoid. But everybody has his own path to becoming a success, whether it's movies or anything else. And it's very hard for anyone to tell how you can do it. You just gotta, with me, I just fell into it. I was doing comic books, and then suddenly they decided to make movies of them, and suddenly, again, I'm the world's only cameo star. So you never know how it's going to end up.
Excellent. Okay, we still have a little bit more time for questions, I've been told. So what do we have on that side? Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how old are you?
12.
Cool.
Why is 12 cool? If he said 11, would that not have been cool? I'm sorry.
My last name is Lee too, by the way, so you have father and son here having a little... Go ahead, son.
Well, I'm a really big fan of your comic stand, but my question is, are you going to be doing a cameo inside the new movie, The Infinity War, for Marvel?
If they ask me to, I certainly will. I love doing them.
Well, to elaborate a little bit on that as well, there's some more Marvel movies that are coming out. Have you done your cameos for Ant-Man and the Wasp?
I don't even remember right now. I was somewhere, I think in North Carolina recently. I did four cameos for 4 different movies. I can't even remember what they are now. And so whatever the movie is, I'm probably in it.
All right, was that good for you, son? You good? All right. Hello on that side.
Hi, I would just like to thank you so much for Captain America, because he has been in my family for 3 generations, and he's amazing. So my question is about how do you feel about the evolutions of the uniforms, and which era was your favorite?
Oh, his uniform. My favorite Captain America uniform? I didn't know they changed it so much. The only change I remembered, when Jack Kirby and I were doing it, he had wings on his helmet. He doesn't have them anymore. I really didn't know they changed anything else. I thought he looked the same to me. What did they change?
Well, okay, let's go all the way back in World War II time when they had the triangular shield.
Oh, I hated the triangular shield. I made him change that to round as soon as I had a chance.
Okay, well, let's go back into the comics when he was basically in spandex, and then during the movies he ended up with sort of like some denim-made kind of material. How do you feel between those?
Movies were better.
So you're not big on tights?
No, I like real things that look real. I love the way he looks today, and he's a great actor. And I got to tell you, Captain America, I wish I didn't have to say this, but I didn't create Captain America. He was created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. When I went to work for the company, he was the first character that they gave me to write. And after a while, Joe and Jack left, and I was doing Captain America all by myself. And so I just want you to know, I wish I had created him, but I didn't.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're really, really happy to have Stan Lee here at DragonCon. From what he's telling me, this is not his last time. So without any further ado, let's give a nice warm applause to the fans. Mr. Stan Lee!
I didn't know there were so many. All right, of course, we can't leave without the proper exit line. Excelsior!